That's a rebuilt ABS module from Module Master. We're going to install it and see what happens. Done. We've got some new stickers. It says warranty void if seal is broken, 5-year, and then the rebuild sticker. And this whole plastic piece is different. This one's really faded. Mine used to be nice and black, but whatever. We're going with function over form now. Even Ferraris and Hudson. That black California is there again. So anyways, I installed the PDC module, the ABS module, and I've driven now. It's the trip odometer minus 5.2, so 31 point whatever miles I'm driving. So 30 miles, so far so good, no lights, they weren't even on when I started the car. So I think that appears to have been successful for now. It's hot, it's 90. And this is not a California 90, this is a Florida 90. It's sticky and humid, and your balls stick to your thighs and it's bad. There's that damn E92 M3 that never waves. So today I drove about 48 miles. I put the ABS module in, I drove it 40 some miles. No lights on the dash, everything seemed to work very well, all functions go. Came home, plugged in INPA, pulled code. I did still have code 23. They told me 23 is there. It's a communication error between the module and something else, the ABS module, and some other module in the car. They do not have it on their test bench, their test fixture, so it could just be that it's not plugged into the car. They say plug it in, drive it 50 miles, see if it comes back, see if it works. If code 23 keeps coming back as a communication error, then they think it's a problem with the module and the module has to be replaced. It's not rebuildable. I already paid $350 to rebuild this module. It seems to work. Code 23 was there, but I think that was from their test fixture. So I reset it, drove it a little more, and it hasn't come back yet. So it's just going to be a matter of keeping an eye on it, driving it, seeing what happens. I really hope it worked though. So that seems to be done for now. And now on to the next issue. And this one's a fun one. So we're leaking fuel. Every single time I go to California, it's always been the 3 Series. I had a tie rod fail, I had an axle fail, I had all the brakes rot and fail, I had a tire that kept losing air and needed a new balance, or needed a new mounting on the wheel, and there was another, the motor mount failed. Every time I go to California, I come back to some $500 to $1,000 expense. I drove the 3 Series today, it felt fine. Tires probably need some adjusting in terms of air pressure, and I'll do that later. That doesn't cost me anything. That car is fine. Drove this car, feels great, sounds great, drives great, no lights. But when I backed it out for the second time today, I looked underneath and there was a wet puddle. Well, I had the air conditioning on because it's 90 degrees here for some reason. I stuck my finger in it, smelled it, and it's gasoline. Good times. So it's coming from right back here, driver's side, kind of where your rear feet would be if you were a rear passenger. It's dripping right here, not anymore because the car's off and the pressure's gone down, so it's not dripping now. Whenever you drive it, it does drip a drop about every 30 seconds. That's not really good at all. Gasoline is extremely flammable, and we're near the exhaust here, which gets pretty hot. I don't think it's hot enough to ignite fuel. In fact, I don't think it's anywhere near hot enough to ignite fuel. But that's also a gamble that kind of puts my entire vehicle and life at stake, and I'm not really into that. We pulled the back seat. We took off the little cover. There's 2 pumps. There's the main fuel pump under the passenger rear seat. That's the one that pumps the fuel from the tank to the engine. There's another pump here that pumps gas from this side of the tank to that side of the tank, where it's then pumped to the engine. So there's 2 pumps. It's leaking over here, so we pulled the rear seat, took off the little trap door and looked at that. It's very rusty, but everything's dry as a bone in there, so it's not that gasket or seal leaking at the top of the tank. The rest of the tank is an enclosed, sealed unit. I had work done in May, I want to say 2014, maybe 2015. They replaced the fuel line from right about here, all the way under the car, up through the chassis and into the engine. That line looks new. It cost a shit ton of money and took about 4 to 6 weeks to get here from Germany. It's not a readily available part. All of this is fine. So it goes into a junction right here, and then there's another pipe that traverses the vehicle over to the passenger side where the fuel pump is. So that junction, where the old as shit original 17-year-old 196,500 mile pipe meets the 2-year-old 5,000 mile pipe, that's where it seems to be leaking. If that fitting is bad, the fitting is a function of the original pipe that comes from the fuel pump. So it's looking like the pipe from the fuel pump over to the junction is failing. I haven't looked into the parts yet to see cost and availability. If I'm doing that though, if I'm screwing with the fuel pump, that fuel pump I've never replaced. It was done at like 30 or 40,000 miles. It's been a long time since that's been done, 150,000 miles. If I'm paying any bit of the labor to replace the pump, I'm going to be very inclined to replace the fuel pump and possibly even the pump that goes from the left side to the right side of the tank. So we're going to look into that later. Car's going into LMS next Monday. The front springs, both front springs are wrong. That's what I did the day I left to San Diego. I got up that morning and the springs are incorrectly installed on the struts, on the strut perches. They're not supposed to sit down in the perch. You guys pointed that out, but both of them are incorrectly installed. So both front struts and springs have to come out, be resituated, be reinstalled, then a four-wheel alignment, and now a fuel leak. I cannot take a step forward. The last few months, this car has been extremely reliable for the 7 years. I've done a ton of work on it, but none of it, very little of it, was imperative, was a safety issue. A lot of it, the vast majority of it, has been preventative maintenance, upgrades, facelifting, making it cleaner, making it nicer. I'm dealing with a lot of stupid issues where you spend big money and what's your benefit? It doesn't leak fuel anymore. Well, it shouldn't leak fuel in the first place. My fuse is getting very short with this. I have a pretty high tolerance for old cars, but when there's always something wrong, it's driving me nuts. Anyways, that's where we stand. We're gonna fix this shit and see where it goes from there. 3 is fine, it works for now. I don't know about tomorrow, but it's all right. Anyways, it's extraordinarily unpleasant being back. I busted ass this morning or this afternoon for several hours blowing leaves, and we're already under quite a bit of leaf cover again. The yard is super dry. I've been mowing or been watering all afternoon and evening, which is not something I'm used to doing in September. It's like a desert out here. It's been in the 90s, no rain, and full sun the entire time I've been gone, which is typical. I left when it's 50 and cloudy and come back when it's 90 and sunny. So I'm trying to bring the yard back a little. I know it's not going to. It's late September. Maybe just green it up a little bit before it does go dormant here in a few weeks. So I fought with the equipment all day. It was very miserable. I'm going to spare you the details. Tomorrow I do need to start mowing. I've got to blow some leaves before I mow, and then tomorrow we're going to work on a little fun project that didn't really cost much on the side, which you'll pretty much know what it is, but we're going to be installing some of those and associated hardware. So stay tuned. There will be an E39 source video and probably a website DIY how-to article. Ken and I are going to spearhead that tomorrow, so we'll talk then on Wednesday. Good night.